7:30 Central Time on NBC. Captain Nice, champion of justice.
It's some nut in his underwear.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners.
I feel like when I come up with some rough sketches on something, I feel like my brain is thinking through all these potential problems and solutions during that initial sketch process that another person, even though they might own the property you're working with, they're not going to have factored all those things.
If you're here at Word Balloon, it's because you like comics, creators, conversation, pop culture subjects. Would you consider joining the League of Word Balloon Listeners? Patreon.com/wordballoon. For just $3 a month or more, you'll get exclusive access to the Word Balloon e-magazine, featuring transcriptions of some of my best conversations. When you subscribe, you'll also be part of the Word Balloon Book Club, where Brian Michael Bendis and I will pick a comic every month to review and discuss live with the League on this show. Join the League today, patreon.com/wordballoon. Thank you always for your support, League of Word Balloon listeners. Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for another Word Balloon Live, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Tom Scioli joining us. Tom Scioli or Scioli? How do I say it, Tom?
Scioli.
Scioli.
Yeah.
So the I is silent. That's just like my I, and my name is silent.
Right. Yeah.
Tom Scioli. It's a pleasure.
It's great to meet you again.
Indeed. I know. We were just talking off the air. I met Tom years ago, and he did an incredibly great Captain America for me. And the reason why I asked for it was I know how much of a Kirby aficionado he is. And man, I'm psyched to talk to you about your current slab of books, Tom, because you're really killing it. But first of all, I want to let people know, they likely already know, that the Total Recall show with Tom, is that your brother that's with you on that show?
It's not. We have very similar last names, but we're not related at all. Yeah, Matt Scioli. Different name altogether, but I think it sounds almost identical. So,
and he says it so fast. That's
right.
I'm like, oh, are they brothers? So, but that's great, man. And you're traveling in the same territory as I am, Tom, and I love that because I really believe that 20th century pop culture doesn't get enough love, and there's got to be something for our age demographic and slightly younger and slightly older for us to reminisce about.
Yeah, I mean, I just talk about what I want to talk about, and a lot of it happens to be that, But I do, like, we just did a review of Wicked that hasn't gone up yet. So, I mean, still a little bit current, but yeah, my interests tend to be in the previous century. Let's just say that.
As evidenced by some of your current books, and dude, you nailed it on this Twilight Zone. Congratulations, God. I love everything about this. Your black and white choice, the story in which you not only drew but wrote, is absolutely something that I think if you were around in the early '60s, they might have Rod Serling might have tapped you for this thing.
Wow, high praise! Thanks so much, John. Yeah, it was such an honor to be chosen to be part of that because it's like, I mean, the Twilight Zone. Forget about it. That's like one of my all-time favorite things.
Did you ever read the Gold Key comics back in the day?
I have a few of them, and the one that I sought out, a few years back there's like a Frank Miller one. He might have done two, but there is a Frank Miller one, and it's got like a Kirby swipe in it. It's got there's like a Kirby drawing of the Thing in a biplane, and so Frank, it's a character in a biplane, and it looks like. I mean, I guess there's only so many ways you can draw a biplane, but it's kind of the exact same cropping and framing. And he's such a Kirby fan, I imagine it wasn't a coincidence.
I remember seeing them on the stands, and maybe I bought a couple back in the day. but it's something I've never gone back and looked for. But I absolutely respect it. And really just the output of Dell and Gold Key and everything. They had cool people. Like, I didn't realize until I talked to him that Len Wein had written a couple Star Treks for them.
Yeah, it's such a huge body of work, and it's not really part of the canon of comic books. Sort of comic book fandom sort of decided a long time ago what the canon is, and it's sort of built off of that, and it's just not part of that. But there is a lot of great stuff. I mean, I really love the Tarzan comics and Magnus Robot Fighter. And,
sure. No, I agree. And brilliant artists. And then, and I know you're a Star Trek fan as well. It is funny to look back and it's like, yeah, they gave those books to these Italian artists and all they gave them were like photographs. And you just have these implausible things like the Enterprise in Space on Fire or beautifully painted covers, though, always for Gold Key.
Yeah. And I've only really scratched the surface of that stuff, too. Like, I probably have a couple dozen of those issues, but still, that's just like a drop in the bucket, to what they were producing.
Absolutely, and also they reprinted them, I believe, time and time again over the years too.
Yeah, and there's some like nice, like sort of thicker, like volumes where they put them together. I have a couple of those too.
That's cool. Well, back to your story. I will let you reveal as much as you'd like. It came out last Wednesday. From IDW, everybody, second issue of the Twilight Zone. Sorry, Tom. I thought you were the ongoing guy, but you're in for this issue. But again, you pack a lot in this one issue, man.
Oh, thanks. And yeah, I mean, a really cool part of the series is that each issue is a different, creative team or solo creator. It was a solo creator in mine, and I think there's a couple other solo creators coming up. But I thought that was a really smart way to do it. Treat it like the show, where you'd have a different writer, different director, for all the episodes. And again, it was a real challenge too. Like it, I mean, I spent the summer basically working on my issue, and it was just a high. I had a high bar to get to, so I wanted, and there were a lot of targets you have to hit when you're doing Twilight Zone. It has to feel like a Twilight Zone, has to look like a Twilight Zone, and you have to sort of ask yourself, like, what is that exactly? Like, I think we all have a sense of what it is and what it isn't, but to like really, hone in on that and be able to, create something new in that form.
It didn't surprise me that, of course, you're doing a space expedition story. And man, I not only, especially on the cover and really the design of the astronauts, they're on a strange planet. You've got that wonderful thing, just like the show. And in fact, I even watched your preview that you did about it on Total Recall, where you said, yeah, it used to crack me up that, they just like land on a planet, pop open the hatch, and all right, here we are. We're on a planet and everything. And yeah, and you threw in that line. Yeah, that's all right. Hey, guess what? We got an oxygen-like atmosphere. We'll be okay.
Yeah, that was at least some kind of lip service to it. But yeah, there are little quirks of Twilight Zone that I felt like, well, yeah, this, because initially I did think of them coming in with like spacesuits and all that, and I thought, well, you know what, Twilight Zone, they usually have a ball cap or just nothing, just like a jumpsuit. There's like the great episode, I think it's called The Lonely, where it's a guy who's on like a prison asteroid. He's on a prison asteroid, and he's just dressed in a jumpsuit. And then the astronauts who deliver him supplies every couple of months, they have football helmets. That's their gear on an asteroid. It's not even like, oh, this is an Earth-like planet or something. It's an asteroid.
Absolutely. I think that was Jack Warden from
Jack
the
Warden,
TV show Bad News Sports. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
one of my favorite character actors. And
right, yeah, he's great. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He also did that baseball Twilight Zone, the Mighty Casey, where they have the robot playing baseball and stuff.
Right, yeah.
So no, it kills me. And truly, it's funny you mentioned the baseball caps. I think of Rocky Jones. I'm sure you've watched from the 50s. Have you watched Rocky Jones at all? That low budget. They made movie. Well, it was an afternoon half-hour cliffhanger show.
Oh, okay.
And then they stitched them together to make movies of the adventures. Mystery Science Theater years ago did like 2 of the adventures, Crash of the Moons, and I forget the name of the other one. But oh man, no, it absolutely is that Wallywood 50s.
Yeah.
And in fact, I really think your spacesuits evoke that Wallywood design, although you got the helmets there in the cover. But yeah, you know, it was literally guys in t-shirts and ball caps on Rocky Jones.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's what they thought the future of space exploration was going to be. It was, I guess, like Grease Monkeys or something. It was like, it's just like this is what guys who work in a garage and fix up your car look like. So these are the same guys that are going to be, taking a spanner or wrench or something to a spaceship.
That's great. Art Balthazar watching us, my man, and says he likes your work and he's a fan. So that's cool.
Oh, thanks. Hey, Art.
Excellent. Have you met him yet on the convention circuit?
If I did, it would have been like years and years ago, way at the beginning. Like I know we've done some of the same shows, especially back in the early days. Like probably, I don't know, Pittsburgh Comic-Con or some of the Ohio shows or something. But yeah.
You're and forgive me, I think we're a little out of sync, so sometimes there might be a little bit of a gap between when we're talking.
Sure. Just like a space mission.
So you're a Pittsburgh guy. So who's no worries, man. Who's still out there? Jimmy Rugg is still out there. Is Dave Wachter? Is he still in Pittsburgh?
Dave Wachter, yeah, Dave Wachter's still in Pittsburgh. Ron Friends, Pat Olive. Yeah, they're Pittsburgh, and then there's just like a whole new generation of like Pittsburgh comics people that I'm that I'm not aware of. It's just Pittsburgh comics has gotten so big that it's really like a big it's like there's worlds within worlds, even in a relatively small city like Pittsburgh.
That's great. How many pages long is this story? Because my God, there's a lot of back matter, alternate covers. And also a nice little preview of what's coming in issue 3. But like, I know you're like over 20 pages. How long is the story?
Yeah, it's 22, which is nice because, the standard is 20. So it's nice to have those extra 2 pages. I needed every bit of real estate because I did want it to, at least in general, have like the rhythm of a Twilight Zone episode. And, it wasn't like, oh, okay, to be continued, next issue, but to have it, be like you sort of sit down with this comic and you get the full Twilight Zone experience in one sitting. So 22 pages was nice.
Well, you nailed it, man. And again, people will definitely feel that Zone aesthetic, and the O. Henry twist at the end, I think, is great. And a couple different places where it twists at the end, and it was very effective. And also, forgive me, because I mean, this is consistent from what I've seen on some of your other books, and especially some of your recent books that we're going to talk about. But there was almost a do you know that the guy who used to do the religious comics, Jack Schiff? I want to say
Jack Chick. Oh wow,
yes, Jack Chick.
Yeah, Jack Chick. Yeah.
I don't know why, but your faces kind of reminded me of Jack Chick in some way.
Interesting. I'll have to take a look at that. I mean, wow, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean, and the Jack Chick comics are black and white, so I don't. And also, they are wide. They're wide, and I used mostly wide panels for this, and it was dialogue driven. So that's interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that, but I was in writing it, I was thinking more in terms of dialogue and oratory and speechifying, because that felt like Twilight Zone. Like my comics tend not to be as wordy or verbose. They tend to be sort of mainly action driven. But again, there was a cadence that felt like the Twilight Zone that I wanted to play with.
Do you have specific writers of the Zone TV show that you really gravitated to? I mean, I'm a Richard Matheson fan. I'm a Charles
Matheson.
fan.
Yeah, Matheson's the big one I think of. I don't. I have so many favorite episodes, and I couldn't necessarily say like, oh, who did, which one. But there is sort of this Twilight Zone voice, this Twilight Zone, way that people communicate with each other, which again is doing a Twilight Zone thing. There's so many different Twilight Zones. I mean, there is that sort of iconic Twilight Zone, the original run that we all know and love, and then even within that, there's maybe like a set number of episodes that are considered, and then you can sort of get outside of that, and then it doesn't feel quite like Twilight Zone anymore. And again, like I'm a fan of the Twilight Zone movie, and I'm a fan of the Twilight Zone, like the 80s TV series. I haven't seen the newest one yet. I do want to check it out. But the 80s series doesn't have like it's Twilight Zone, but it's 80s Twilight Zone. So it does, but there's certain things that are just unique to that late 50s, early 60s world that I love and is great. But I understand why somebody making a show in the 80s or making a show now wouldn't feel like, oh well, we got to make sure the acting is a certain style of acting, and we got to make sure the lighting's a certain kind of, like, I understand why people wouldn't want to adhere to that. But that was an ingredient I wanted for my first and possibly only try at a Twilight Zone story. If this is it, if this is the only time I get to do a Twilight Zone story, there's certain notes I want to hit.
I don't blame you, man. And again, I think you did. And there's a reason why the classic run continues in syndication and on streaming and cable on the various outlets and things. I got the chance to talk to two writers of the 80s show over the years, Marty Pasco and JMS, Joe Straczynski.
Right, yeah.
And and I know I remember UPN had their version in the early or late 90s or early 2000s that the same showrunner as Deep Space Nine was doing, Ira Bear. And then, of course, Jordan Peele's one. I got to be honest, man, I was kind of let down. And really, if there is a successor to that Twilight Zone vibe, it's that Black Mirror show on Netflix.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I'm sure that's part of the pitch. I mean, yeah, again, I haven't seen Jordan Peele's Twilight Zone, but I've seen, his movies, which I guess is why he got the job as, taking over the Twilight Zone, because they would fit, really nicely into the Twilight Zone format.
Agreed. And that's, I think, why, unfortunately, myself, I was kind of let down by whatever factors went into his thing. But you're right. I think for your issue, you really get that that cadence of the original series. And I'm assuming that Serling, even though he would get something from a Matheson or a Charles Beaumont or some of these others, that he would story edit and kind of tailor them into what he was looking for. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Have you really delved into the history?
Yeah, I mean that's the sense I get, that he'd sort of put his spin on it, and it was ultimately his show, and he had been working in television for a really long time by that point. So I think you do get really good at seeing that big picture, and figuring out a voice and a way to collaborate with people and get people to bring their best. But there definitely does seem to be a consistent voice, even though there are a lot of different writers. And then just some of the things of Serling's that precede the Twilight Zone, and then things that came after. I mean, particularly the Twilight Zone script. I've read Serling's not Twilight Zone, his Planet of the Apes script. I've read Serling's Planet of the Apes script, and yeah, it's that same voice.
Yeah, it's a shame. I'm really glad Dana Gould adapted Serling's screenplay. I got to interview him about that, and it would have been a cool movie. And of course, we got that makeup test that Heston and Edward G. Robinson.
Edward G. Robinson's in it. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, that is really fun to see.
And it's very Twilight Zone feeling in terms of where it could have gone. I never read the original novel. I don't know if you have.
I have it. Yeah, it's excellent. I like it a lot. that screen test felt a lot like the Eye of the Beholder episode of Twilight Zone. Just the doctors, they're in their sort of doctor gear, and I don't know, the acting, the conversations really felt like it was just sort of like a next door neighbor to that show.
Agreed, and I also think just the whole vibe, the society felt more alien and akin to the various times that you would see alien races on the Twilight Zone. So yeah, no, it felt more Serling. And again, I still like the finished product that we got, from the '68 movie and the subsequent. I'm an original 5 fan. I have rooted for the newer stuff. The Burton movie was, and I really kind of hated how much he was shitting on the makeup. And it's like, hey, dude, that guy won an Oscar, and rightfully so. And yeah, you got the makeup down. Your story, not so much.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that original stuff, and I love the TV series too.
Me too.
The Planet of the Apes. I mean, I knew the TV series before I knew the movies, because the TV they'd run them all the time. And then when I finally saw just a little piece of the first movie, and I was like, wow, this is really, this really feels grown up, and it felt like, oh wow, it was the correct order to watch them in, because the TV series was more of like a kids thing, and then the movies series. The thing I've seen recently that I really liked was the director's cut of Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. It's on the Blu-ray, and it's amazing. I mean, I always loved Conquest. It was, that was sort of my second favorite of that original thing. But the director's cut is tremendous. I mean, I think it was going to get an X rating or something because it has scenes where they shoot the apes in the face and stuff. But it's a really strong statement. That director's cut, and the going back and watching the original version does feel compromised. It feels like they kind of tone things down.
Yeah, but now we must put our weapons down and learn to
live with.
And
because he's at the end of the director's cut, he's preaching for just all out war and destroy the human race and stuff. But yeah, they tone down the rhetoric.
And then we got Battle, the 5th movie, which really is it's such a cool, weird movie. And man, I have a ton of respect for the director, and right now the British guy, and he's got 3 names, and I forget it, Lee something, I forget his name, but man, it's interesting because he certainly was hampered by a shoestring budget. And also, it was rated G, the
right,
movie, as opposed to the near X that Conquest got.
The Battle for the Planet of the Apes feels like a companion to Beneath the Planet of the Apes. Because it's got the mutants, and it's not great, but there's so much good stuff in it.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. No, like I said, that original 5. It's so funny. You could say that about Bond as well. The Connerys and everything, and also I mean I love the Lazenby film, and I think you're a real Bond fan.
Yeah.
You're like, no, On Her Majesty's Secret Service is a great movie.
Yeah, it's good. He just had to follow up Sean Connery. Somebody had to take that one. Somebody had to take that one for the team. And so of course people are going to say, oh, this guy's no Sean Connery, but yeah, I thought he was great. And I thought that was one of the strongest Bond movies, just in general, just putting aside who's playing Bond. It was all kinds of great set pieces, great villain.
No, I'm
Telly
with you,
Savalas,
Yes, great Blofeld, fantastic Blofeld. I mean, that's the thing, and Diana Rigg is great, and Peter Hunt, the director, who was the editor on a lot of those early Connerys and stuff. Again, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I know nobody's going to be Sean Connery, obviously, and we certainly know that, but he's Lazenby is surrounded by this excellent movie.
Yeah, and it advances the story of James Bond too, which is very rare in a James Bond. They're usually just sort of throwaway adventures, but this one actually, the character, has an arc and ends up in a different place than where he started.
Absolutely, man. Well, let's get back to your books and everything, because you got a lot of stuff that has come out in the last few months. And no, hey, Tom, that's great, man, because truly we could point people that maybe have read some of these other things and point them not only to last week's Twilight Zone, but also the Godzilla Monster Piece Theater, hilarious. And man, folks, if you wondered what it's almost your League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, in that it's well, I'll let you describe it because it's really great, and I'll get into the details of it. But I mean, this is a very wide, sprawling epic in your art style.
Yeah, it's Godzilla versus the Great Gatsby, and so it sort of starts there. Again, I tried to match the themes of both things, like sort of line up the themes of the Great Gatsby with the themes of Godzilla. So it feels almost perfectly natural when Godzilla steps into Gatsby's world, but then it from there it blossoms into this just this grand adventure across unreality, across again, like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, just letting sort of all of fiction sort of seep its way into this sort of global battle between two big G's.
We've got steampunk heroes, we've got diesel punk heroes, leading right to the atomic age baddie of Godzilla, but it is set in that Gatsby period. Ironic timing, given that our president just had a great Gatsby party. Where was Godzilla when we needed him then?
Interesting.
But I mean, it's right there on the cover. So I mean, I do want to point out that not only is Gatsby in there, Sherlock Holmes is in there. There's somebody that is revealed, if you don't know, with a D on the back of his cape. And then also the time how do you put it? Because my eyeballs are short. But the guy from the H.G. Wells Time Machine story.
Yeah, but in the book I called him the Time Machinist. I think in the Time Machine he's referred to as the Time Traveler. But the Time Traveler just felt a little generic. There's lots of people that are time travelers. Time Machinist felt right.
But you got the Gatsby certainly right of it. He's pining for Daisy, and then this big giant thing happens, and it becomes it's the F. Scott of Fitzgerald of it all is still there, but alongside this crazy monster sci-fi movie that you've decided to layer on top of it.
I mean, it allows for a nice through line. Like, I mean, some of the best Godzilla stories have some kind of human drama that's being played out in the midst of this like larger catastrophe. So it was kind of a perfect fit. It fit better than it had any right fitting. It really the Godzilla and the Great Gatsby worked really well together. And Godzilla in like a 1920s American city kind of milieu like that worked really nicely too. And it felt pretty fresh. Like I would have imagined, oh well, somebody's done something like this at some, but I don't think that exact like that's ever been covered in the how many years has Godzilla been around at this point? 75 or 70? Yeah, 70. Okay, yeah,
well 54, so yeah, 71.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And Marvel, obviously, when they had the license and that, you had Dum Dum Dugan and Shield fighting Godzilla, which was fun.
That stuff was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is like there's like two different layers of the idea of lost generation, which was so important to the World War I veterans coming back from World War I, and Jay Gatsby represents that. But you could say that too about the Time Mechanic, and as well as, and sorry if you didn't say Time Mechanic,
Time Machinist, but yeah,
Time Machinist. My apologies.
Time Mechanic's good too. That's a good name.
Where was I to help you then?
Yeah.
Exactly. The Time Machinist and Sherlock Holmes. And I mean, that's the thing, man. It's like all these guys represent an interesting period, and then to throw them into 1920s America against this thing that we only knew about during the atomic age, and to see how it all kind of plays out. And that's what I mean, man, because it's a little bit of this steampunk era suddenly finding themselves about 20 to 30 years beyond their best years. And then also this threat that we know best from the atomic age. So yeah, the time kind of converges into this crazy period in the 20s.
Yeah, that is it is kind of fun to think about, because there are, certain people, I mean, just, real world figures too, but that we sort of think of as part of a certain era. But, it's like, well, they maybe, lived into other eras that we don't associate them with. There was, at one point, I know they were going to do an Indiana Jones movie where it took place in the 50s. I mean, they ended up doing that Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but it began as like, okay, what's Indiana Jones doing in the 50s? And so let's have him show up in like a cheesy flying saucer movie, like a flying saucer story, which is how that began. And then it became something else. But again, and then even the most recent Indiana Jones, and seeing him watching H.R. Puffin stuff on TV, and listening to the Magical Mystery Tour, I think, But it's like, yeah, why not?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Absolutely. I know. Don't get me wrong, Dial of Destiny has its flaws. I don't hate it as much as others do. And I don't know. I'd have to think of where I'd put it in the 5.
Sure.
But I think it's slightly better than Crystal Skull. But again, I think all the problems that I heard, my buddy Gabe Hartman was the storyboard artist on it.
Okay.
And he told me the real kind of, they had stuff that they were going to shoot in completely different locations. Mm-hmm. And then because of COVID, they had to, juke and change things. And that's among the reasons why the budget ballooned to how big it became.
Sure. Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy all that stuff. Like, yeah. I enjoyed all of them. I loved the Star Wars sequel trilogy that I know everybody's saying, how awful it was. Like, I love that too. So I'm always surprised when, again, I never thought I'd see the day where an Indiana Jones movie would sort of underperform. I thought that was like one of those things but again, it's just, times change, tastes change.
Yeah. Well, we're at the older end of the nerd demo, man. And I mean, that's 20 somethings to get into with the same zeal that we do. I mean, right now, modern Star Trek, classic example, and I won't drag you into a massive Star Trek conversation. But no, don't worry. Yeah, don't worry. But I do want to acknowledge on the Total Recall show that you talked up Galactica 1980. And I absolutely appreciated your fresh eyes on it, because I remember watching it as a kid when it was still on ABC. And if people don't know, that was the sequel to the original. And other than Lorne Greene, it was really, unfortunately, just hampered by budget constraints. Tom does a great deep dive on it on the Total Recall show. And there's only one really, really good episode, and that's The Return of Starbuck, where Dirk Benedict did come back. But I mean, they put it at 6:00 in the evening, Central Time. And that was the kids' hour. So it could be violent. So literally, as I understand it, watching the various behind the scenes documentary that exists, that like even having a laser gun like split a tree, well, that's kind of violent, isn't it? And it's like, Jesus, man.
Yeah, at that point, it becomes like what Saturday morning cartoons were back then, like what they couldn't show on, Super Friends or something,
I always say the Captain Marvel Shazam show is so tame. It makes the first 2 seasons of Superman in the 1950s look like Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
The amount of gunplay.
It's interesting though, because and I guess this is just natural, but I came from all that stuff. Like there weren't a lot of comic books around the house when I was a kid, so I knew all these shows. And so it was sort of perfect because the comics were, by comparison, so sophisticated, grown up. They didn't talk down to you. They were exciting. So it was kind of like perfect, where it's like, I like Shazam, and then you start checking out the comics, even like the comics from the 40s and stuff, and it's like, wow, that's same's true of Ninja Turtles. Like Ninja Turtles, you see the cartoon and it's fun and it's goofy and campy or whatever, but then you discover the comics and it's like, oh wow, this is the real stuff.
Absolutely. Are you have you done, I know you've done Transformers and G.I. Joe. Have you done any Turtle stuff?
I have not done any Turtles. I mean, I that's something I'd enjoy. I like I've done some tributes to like I've done for Fantastic Four Grand Design. I did a cover that was a tribute to issue 1 of Ninja Turtles. I think that the cover never ended up being a cover, but it ended up being, that sketch of the cover ended up being part of the back matter of Fantastic Four Grand Design. But yeah, I mean, no, I've never done anything like official with the Turtles. Although I did get the Xeric grant from Peter Laird for my first comic, The Myth of Eight Opus. So there's a Turtles connection there.
That's awesome, man. No, I honestly, my first awareness of you was Godland. And you're man, I remember talking to Joe, 20 years ago when I was first doing Word Balloon. And I'm just like, hey, man, I love this design that Tom's doing and everything about it. And certainly Godland, a great example of your Kirby influence right there. But that's wonderful that you got the Xeric grant. That was, and if people don't know, that was this great thing that Eastman and Laird did, giving out, these grants to get aspiring creators their first books.
Yeah, I mean, it was just Peter Laird. Yeah, Kevin Eastman did. He had a different, like a different approach or a different philosophy for sort of helping out, but they both had their own separate like ways of helping out, comics creators. Yeah, it's funny. I just talked to Joe Casey not too long ago about the new, not new, but the Albert Pune Captain America. The family released like his work print. It was like this, kind of raw but very like wonderful version of that movie that just came out this year, and I'm very excited about it, and been kind of telling people about it, and so me and Joe were talking about that.
That's great, man. No, I saw your review of it, and I also reviewed it here on my show.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
Oh man, it is so good, and I so agree with you. I think Terry Beatty was the first creator that I saw raving about it, and we all, especially those of us that saw it either as a bootleg or VHS or whatever back in the day, it's like, oh man, whatever. And no, you see this director's cut, and like you said, it is rough, but it's clean enough that if you really want to get the story, and it is 100 times better than what the final cut was. And way to go, Canon, for screwing up what could have been a great movie.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, I because what it is very risky. It takes a lot of chances. It's rough around the edges, but I think it's a beautiful, like, exquisite thing. And then, but for the actual released version, they made something much safer. And it is funny because that original version of the Captain America movie that came out all those years ago, I might say it's like the worst superhero movie ever. It's like pretty far down the list, but this one is like one of my favorite superhero movies of all time.
I saw in your review, you're like,
I don't know how you do that.
It's my favorite Captain America movie, and I'm like, no, I understand, man, because there's a purity to it, and even Matt Salinger, he's not a great actor. Chris Evans can run circles around him, but there's a very earnest performance, and again, in that director's cut, I think you get that feeling of this guy is lost in time.
Yeah, that lost quality like really works in this version. Yeah.
My theory is because, and I'm glad we're making this tangent. We'll get back because
sure.
There's no more Tom stuff to talk about. But also, my theory is the reason why they made the skull Italian and suddenly it was this whole Italian story rather than it being Germans and Nazis. I'm guessing there probably was some investment money from Italians, and that might be why it. And also, it seemed like they maybe did a little shooting in Italy. I'm not sure.
Yeah, could be. Although, like, that element didn't seem as glaring in this other edit. This version moves so fast that you don't really have time to think about, things. Think about the absurdity, which I think is very smart. Like it keeps moving. Where the other one was kind of ponderous, and so you have plenty of time to like get a really good look at that costume and like see the seams in it and the performance and the sets seem more like sets. You get to see where they get you in and out of them really fast. It's also because I mean, some people I've talked to about it are asking me like, "Oh, so there must be like some amazing new scenes in it," and I don't know how much there might not be any new material in the new. It's just all the same stuff, just cut in just a much smarter way. Like, and we're not accustomed in this day and age to less is more. We really are like, oh, bigger is better. But this is, this is a really good, you know, demonstration of just reductionism or keeping things simple.
Agreed. And it's funny. I thought that there might be a couple different scenes because I seem to remember more scenes of Ronnie Cox and Ned Beatty together as adults, as opposed to that kind of all the President's Men kind of phone conversations about, hey, I think I saw the guy. Well, get to the bottom of it, Ned. Go out there and investigate. And I loved, and again, I think it works better. And Ronnie Cox is great in everything. As the
he
president.
is really,
managed to seem pretty credible throwing a punch in one of those fight scenes at the end of the movie and stuff. Yeah, I like him a lot. That's no, I really do. And also, you have this Red Skull. You have a bit of sympathy for him because he's got this Italian background. Well, they were dealing with fascism in Italy, as you know. I mean, and the whole Mussolini thing. And as a kid, he was kind of, against his will, indoctrinated into that whole thing. And so there is kind of this small bit of this Red Skull sympathy as opposed to, the pure hate of Johann Schmidt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, the Red Skull, over the years has gotten sort of like an official, backstory and an official canon. But for a lot of years, he was kind of like the Joker, where there wasn't really, there'd been a couple different versions of who he is, and eventually, somebody came, like a Roy Thomas or somebody came along and made sort of like a grand, thing that made all those little pieces fit. But why couldn't this be one of the, origin stories of the Red Skull?
I'm cool with it. ChemDog is joining us and says the only other thing I can think of that Matt Salinger did was he was a jock in Revenge of the Nerds. I didn't remember that. I thought this might have been it for him.
Well, yeah, that Captain America felt like a jock, like that. The Matt Salinger one. It felt like, okay, yeah, that's a valid approach to this sort of superhero that is essentially like a super athlete.
Yeah, and also, I guess I know people would make fun of the fact that his ears, clearly were fake. Mm-hmm. But I guess the reason why was they actually did have his normal ears, but the mask kept shifting on him. So it would screw up. So that's why they're like, all right, we'll do this and everything. It's such a great low budget solution. And listen, there's still elements of it that are absolute cheese. But again, given when we grew up and everything, it's like, hey, something, there were a lot of cheesy things, as far as TV and movies back then. But again, I think the good stuff supersedes the bad stuff.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because this version is so new and it's sort of just filtering through the culture a little bit. So I'm looking forward to like a larger conversation, because as of now, it's just like those few of us who were willing to sort of plunk down the $30 or whatever to get the Blu-ray. But I want to hear what other people when Joe told me he got a copy on my recommendation, I was like, uh-oh, and then he loved it too. So
especially someone as opinionated as Joe.
Sure.
I was wondering, honestly, I love another book of yours, the Image book that came out. And here we go, everybody. Xanadex, another fantastic sci-fi thing. And I would tell people that if you enjoyed Godland, then I think the same vibe, or at least a slightly similar vibe in this, as you say, space opera Xanadex. I don't want to give it the proper title, but I was wondering, I'm like, oh shit, I hope he and Joe are still cool. And obviously you guys are still cool. So that's great to hear.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's interesting that is an interesting pairing, thinking about space opera Xanadex, Across the Unknown Dimensions of the Galaxy, and Godland, because there is, especially just looking at the covers just now, they're both sort of, referencing, sort of more like sci-fi magazine or sci-fi paperback than comics covers. I guess Jack Kirby's Star Warriors was kind of like that too. Kind of had the sort of sci-fi, paperback kind of approach to it. But yeah, I mean, that's my genre. That's my genre of choice, is sort of space opera, sci-fi, and it's nice to get back to that and do do a project in that vein.
Well, people can pick up the trades of both Space Opera Xanadex and also the Godzilla Monster Piece Theater. They're both out now, and again, also that Twilight Zone is also out now. So there's a good handful of things, man. Tell me about your again, your love for Kirby. I was well aware of it with Godland, but then you went on to do the biography of Kirby that you did. And that's really cool. I meant to talk to you about that. And then, of course, suddenly I looked up and, like, I'm sure that was that like 5 years ago, 10 years ago? How long
Yeah,
ago?
it feels like just yesterday, but I think it was because it was, pandemic time. Like it got sort of, got a curveball, like a lot of things because of the pandemic. So yeah, it was 5 years ago. I can't believe it. Yeah, it feels very recent to me. But yeah, that was a labor of love and something that was again maybe like outside my comfort zone. I'd never done a biographical thing before, but if I was going to do a biography, Kirby was the perfect subject to start, because I mean so much of my training came from studying Kirby and studying his work obviously, but studying his life too. So it was pretty natural, and it's it's a story that needs to be out there, as accessible to as many people in as many different forms as possible. So that was my, I make comics, so I made a comic about Jack Kirby. Maybe somebody else will make a biopic or a documentary or something but or a video game where you get to be Jack Kirby. And
That's excellent, man. No, here are a couple more comments from the chat. Little Mike G says there's a terrible deficit of space opera. Well, Tom's got you covered with what
sure,
he's been
yeah.
later. And ChemDog has your Twilight Zone right in front of him, so that's awesome.
Nice.
Good to hear. Excellent.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, the deficit of space opera, because it is, it's my genre of choice, but it is a little bit of an uphill battle. It's had its moments, but it's not exactly a like an easy sell or a persistent, because there are in terms of space opera, there are these like larger brands that have sort of solidified to the point where it's like, oh well, if I want to check out space opera, I'll watch one of the many Star Wars things or one of the many Star Trek things. But it's there's room for all kinds of things,
Absolutely.
all kinds of space opera.
But also, I really love your indie style doing these things, because there might be an expectation for, God, when Walt Simonson was doing either Star Wars or Galactica, or, some of the other more, you'll forgive the air quotes, realistic, artists and everything. But I love that your style, and maybe it's intimidating for some other artists to attempt that kind of thing. But man, you throw yourself right in there, and unbelievable cityscapes and unbelievable interplanetary monsters and action.
Thanks. Yeah. It's interesting you bring up Simonson, because he's, that's kind of, we sort of know him from Thor primarily, but space opera, he cut his teeth on Battlestar Galactica and Star Wars, and then he did, he had his own thing, Star Slammers. So that was, and then even his Thor run, Beta Ray Bill starts with basically like a space armada straight out of Star Wars or Battlestar Galactica meets Thor. Like it feels almost like, I don't know, did it start as a pitch when he was doing Battlestar Galactica of like, oh, what if Battlestar Galactica comes to Earth and the first person they come across is Thor?
Well, also, I just loved when he introduced Beta Ray Bill, and it's like, whomsoever be they worthy, and it's like, well, why does it just have to be, Don Blake? Why can't it be this guy that is worthy, and all of a sudden he gets the power and everything? No, it was such a wonderful, all the different experimentation that Walt did during the Thor run was just crazy. And it's so funny. I'm sure you've had your moments with Walter as well. He's just such a decent, normal guy. And
Oh,
these
for
crazy
sure, yeah.
ideas are coming out of him. Now, was it a foregone conclusion that with the Kirby book, you'd eventually do the Stan book as well?
It wasn't a foregone conclusion for me. I think the publisher really wanted a Stan Lee book, and as a follow up, and I just that wasn't. I mean, I just didn't. I wasn't. First of all, I wasn't ready to jump right into that same world, right off the bat. So I sort of, got involved with some other things, but the more it kind of, simmered in the back of my mind, I just, woke up one day and I'm like, I have an approach. Like I have a concept for a Stan Lee biography that I would want to tell, that, and so it did, but it took me a while to come around. And so of course they were very happy, to hear that I did have, a take on Stan Lee.
Who was your publisher for these?
10 Speed. They
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you're familiar with them. And when I first signed on with them, graphic novels were like a relatively new thing for them that they were kind of starting to get into, and now they have their own, separate, graphic novel line at this point now, which is nice to see and nice, to be a part of.
I met them years ago, but yeah, I appreciate everything they do, and they've really expanded the idea of graphic novels and not just be original fiction, but to be, kind of documentary style comic books and things alongside the original stories and things. Mike G wants to know, are there others that you would like to do bios on?
Yeah, sure. My follow-up to Jack Kirby, the Jack Kirby book would have, if I had my druthers, would have been about Otto Binder. I would have done an Otto Binder book because after doing a Jack Kirby bio, I thought, okay, I'd like to do a writer, and Otto Binder, I thought would be really interesting, and I did some work on sort of an Otto. So he's one. I mean, Ditko is an obvious one. He's, again, I wouldn't know where to start. I guess I have a little more of a handle on, telling a story about Ditko since I've been to the Steve Ditko con, and I've met some of his family and sort of, walked his same streets that he grew up in and stuff. So I have a little more of a handle on it, but still, like, yeah, that's a tall order. He's one. I mean, just, you name it, like any comic book person you could name could have a, there's a story to tell there. And again, I didn't, Jack Kirby, sure. I knew I could do a Jack Kirby, no problem, but anything beyond that was sort of like, oh, can I do this? And so I did a Stan Lee book. So now I'm not, I feel like I could, pretty much tackle any subject.
It's ironic timing that you mentioned Otto Binder, because literally a week or two ago, I re-released my one interview I did with Bill Shelley, who did that fantastic.
Yeah, he did two great books. I think it was maybe two versions of the same book or something. Like I have both of them, and I've read one of them, and I haven't read the other yet. But yeah, he did a great Otto Binder book.
I didn't realize he did a second one about Binder, because of course I have his Kurtzman book as well.
Yeah. I'll have to pull it off my shelf, but it is like, I feel like there's the one book he did, and I don't know which came first, but there's one that it seems more like a mass market kind of thing, and then the other one seems more sort of like fanish, like, okay, this one's for the fans with all every little bit of trivia that you'd ever want to know about Otto Binder.
That's hilarious, man. No, that's cool. So what streaming shows are you watching now? There's that new one that's on Apple, and man, I keep forgetting the name of it, but it's not Rampart. It's like, it has some like word from the Pledge of Allegiance in it, and it's supposed to be a really good sci-fi show. Maybe somebody in the chat can write it down for us, but you know what I'm talking about at all, or I don't know if you have Apple.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm trying to think what streamers I'm watching at the moment. I mean, I have been, I have my box set of Battlestar Galactica, and I've been, anytime I need to throw something on, I've been putting those on. After I did Galactica 1980, I'm like, let's let's get back to the to the real stuff.
All right, now I got to get nerdy with you about especially the original Galactica series. That when Count Ibley, Patrick McNee's wonderful devil character, shows up, and they've got the wreckage of what is some sort of ship that is on the planet, and it's Starbuck, it's Apollo, and it's Sheba, and of course Sheba came from the Pegasus, Kane's,
daughter,
ship. Yeah, and they never really reveal it, but I know there are fan theories that wreckage that is on the thing might be the wreckage of the Pegasus. Have you heard
the Pegasus?
That theory?
Yes, John. Lately, I've been going so deep into Galactica. I read one of the Galactica novels. I want to read, and it was phenomenal. I want to read more. I've been reading the Rob Liefeld's Maximum Press Battlestar Galactica comics. Like, I've been going so deep in about. So yeah, I'm aware of that theory. From what I understand, it's a fan theory, and that so the thought was that she finds there's something horrifying in there that they don't want her to see, and that the fan theory is that it's her father's dead body or something. But they said it's actually, it was like a hoofed. It was supposed to be some sort of satanic demon or whatever, and that the censors felt that was a little too extreme, so they cut that out. So that's as far as I understand it. But again, that's an amazing fan theory, and why not? If someone's doing a follow up or something, why not follow up from that? It is a good one, but yeah, because the alternative is that Commander Kane's still out there, fighting the good fight. So that's kind of like, if you're going to do like a follow up to that, it would be kind of nice to have him in the fray. But
the living legend, absolutely, man. No, that's a great. I am with you on the original series. There are some really great episodes, and then there's Bobby Van and Ray Bolger as really annoying robots.
Right. Yeah. It seemed like when I was a kid, it seemed like anytime that was on I guess it was on the Sci-Fi Channel, it would be that episode. Yeah. Like I wanted to see like the really great episodes, but somehow whenever I'd be there, it would be Ray Bolger as a dancing robot.
Yes. When you say you're reading the novels, are they the ones that Richard Hatch was doing?
No, I do want to read those. I was at a secondhand bookstore and I found it's called the Cylon Death Machine. It's an adaptation of The Gun on Ice Planet Zero, and it was terrific. It was so good, and it it gave you everything you wanted, because it was you have the basics of the episode, but then it goes down all these other roads and like enriches the characters. There's a sequence in it, and I thought, is that in the episode? Because you kind of don't quite remember, but you can totally see it. You can totally see Dirk Benedict and stuff. But it's Imperious Leader has this AI generator, and based on the information they've gathered about the Galactica fleet, the AI can create like approximations of the different people. So but they're all kind of hazy, but then they have a lot of information about Starbuck from like some things that happened in some of the episodes. And so the Starbuck AI is very like perfect. And so Imperious Leader will have these conversations with this Starbuck AI and try to like get information, even though it only knows what they know. It doesn't, but maybe he can get something from these conversations. Sure. And the Starbuck hologram is like, teasing him and tweaking him, and he's getting infuriated by this AI. And it's just these amazing scenes that are in this novel, but as far as I know, don't exist anywhere in like the actual shows.
God, I gotta see if the Internet Archive has PDFs of the original novels, because to try. I mean, hell, the Richard Hatch ones. Look for those at secondhand.
Yeah, I want to check those out. Yeah.
Yeah, but my God, they're like, if you try to get them from like an Amazon third party, it's like $75 for
okay.
This. It's like,
interesting.
I'm not that interested. That's okay. But I do remember those adaptations. They're kind of like the James Blish Star Trek novelizations that were coming out in the 70s. And also, my God, that cover art for those Galactica novelizations.
Yes, Frazetta.
Spectacular. Oh,
yeah,
was
these
it?
Great Frazetta paintings.
Well, say no more.
That probably go for millions of dollars now.
I'm sure. No, that's great, man. That's hilarious. No, man. Again, this is why it was great to really dig in beyond talking about what you're doing now with the Zone. But also, again, everybody, I want to recommend Tom's wonderful show, Total Recall. It is fantastic. And do you do audio as well as video, Tom?
No, we just do video. I mean, audio. I'll get to that at some point.
Yeah. Well,
my comics work takes up most of my time, and then it's like whatever's left. We can do some videos and stuff.
Well, and also I give you credit because I can't shut up, as evidenced by this already hour-long conversation. But yeah, no, hey man, if you got 6 minutes on something, you do it. If you got 30 minutes on something, you do it. And that's great. And I think that's really terrific. I'm really finally, and I say this to you as a fellow podcaster, how long have you been doing Total Recall? How long has it been?
I think, I guess 5 years. I think we started, it was like a pandemic project kind of thing. So yeah.
Well, that's pandemic's when I started doing consistent video.
Yeah.
And so, but again, beyond having the comic book interviews, I'm like, yeah, but like you said, I want to talk about the stuff that I'm into. We mentioned the Twilight Zone. Everyone knows the obvious episodes, but one of my favorites, and why I love the original show, especially, I know they had the one season of hour-long episodes, but the half hours, there's that one episode, Dead Man's Shoes with Warren Stevens.
Mm-hmm.
The gangster, the bomb finds the gangster's shoes and it's possessed. That's like a tight little 20-minute film noir.
Yeah. They were like little movies. The one I keep telling people about, because I only saw it for the first time very recently, I didn't know it existed, is the one where the guy's got a wax museum in his basement of serial killers. And it's tremendous. It's such a great episode, but it's not one of the ones that is in like a heavy rotation or that people talk, it's not like To Serve Man and Eye of the Beholder. And it's not, but to me, it's like, this is a great episode. It's funny. It's scary. It's creepy, just really great.
Martin Baltham. Absolutely, man. It's terrific. And I think that fourth season of the hour ones, it's hit and miss, but it's like, well, the whole series was hit and miss. And mostly hit. And no, there's really great hour ones. I love the one with the guy who was the lead in the 70s show SWAT, The Parallel, where he's the astronaut that goes up and he comes down to a parallel Earth, and there's just small little Steve Forrest, small slight, like he goes up and he's a major and he comes down, how you doing, Colonel? And he's like, promotion. And also, he's talking about President Kennedy. Who the hell's John Kennedy? And it's
that's
great.
That's the subgenre of Twilight Zone episodes that I was trying to do, was the one of like, you go up in a spaceship, you land somewhere and something weird's going on, and I figured like that's a strain of Twilight Zone episode, but I felt like it sort of is one that plays to my strengths. And also I don't think, because I didn't really know what everybody else was doing for theirs. So I thought, I don't think anybody else is going to be doing that. Like I don't think we'll all be tripping over each other trying to be the guy who does the space opera episode. I think everybody else probably wants to do one of those, like, more sort of like, okay, something really weird is happening and, something, maybe supernatural or whatever. Because the spaceship ones are sort of like their own little thing.
Totally agree, man. And again, I focused on Dead Man's Shoes, but I really am like, I've been focused when I do, I'll do like minute or 2 minute reviews, because it's just me narrating and showing some screen caps or whatever. But I'm like, I don't have an hour to say about this. And also I feel like a lot of things have already been like covered, and certainly the obvious ones like To Serve Man and things like that. And it's like, no, it's these little gems. Another great space one that your story reminded me was Elegy, where they go to that planetoid. So it's got that vibe to it in a very different way, but it's an echo of that kind of storytelling, and The Invaders, of course, with Agnes Moorehead, another good one.
Yeah, that's one of my absolute favorites is The Invaders. I mean, because it's just so much fun. Like so many of these, and they have done this, but so many of these episodes you could expand into a whole movie. But like just this movie of just make a movie of like a lady in a cabin getting attacked by these little like flying saucer guys. It's so great.
Absolutely, man. All right, ChemDog's all over the place with his memories of Twilight Zone. And I agree. The Christmas episode with Art Carney, fantastic.
Now,
Great
I grew up with the 80s version. I
Sure.
was maybe
Yeah.
a little bit older when they started running like marathons and stuff, and that's when I started watching the originals. But I grew up with the '80s version, so I saw the '80s version of the Santa Claus episode, and I loved it. You know, because some of the '80s ones were remakes, and then some of them were originals, and that one. I mean, yeah, don't sleep on the '80s Twilight Zone series. It's definitely worth checking out, and it's aged nicely also because that '80s video quality now has sort of a creepy, nostalgic quality to it that it didn't have, at the time. But it certainly aged the original Twilight Zone did. But they did a really nice remake of that, and then years later when I saw the Art Carney one, I was like, oh, this is great. This is where that came from, and you got Art Carney in it. The video quality of that Art Carney episode's interesting too, because I think there were some episodes that they maybe like shot on video or instead of film, and I think that was one of them. So it's kind of it's in that grouping of Twilight Zone episodes that have that sort of like daytime drama soap opera kind of look to them.
I was really glad they found the actual videotape, because when they used to show them in syndication, they look like 50s kinescopes that are, shot from a screen. So it has that kind of washed out look when you saw it then. And man, there's that great one with Inger Stevens where she's the daughter and wants to leave the house. And the parents are like, oh no, you can't leave. I don't want to tip it for.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We don't want to give
But it really, you're right. It feels like Dark Shadows, and especially the black and white Dark Shadows and everything. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty neat, man. So I am absolutely with you on that. Pete Beiser has a comment. He says, Sterling loves stories of going back to a middle-aged guy's past, with which, if made today, would be the 1990s. You're right about that, man.
Oh, I don't want to. I don't like thinking about that kind of stuff. But I do, like, for years, I've been thinking about, am I ever going to do My American Graffiti? And it's like, and George Lucas, I think he might not even have been 30 when he did American Graffiti, but it was like, he made it in the 70s, but it's about the early 60s. So that I mean, that's such a short, like when he made it, it probably felt like, oh yeah, I remember all that ancient stuff, but it was only, maybe like 10 or so years in the past. But yeah, My American Graffiti. And it's like, okay, well, if I would have made, My American Graffiti in like my 20s or something, it would have been the 80s or 90s, so
it's
you never know. Yeah.
There's some sitcoms that they rerun on like Antenna TV or MeTV, and man, I forgot how garish. I mean, every decade has its fashion. Like, oh God, what were we thinking? And sadly I was a child that they stuffed into leisure suits back in the 1970s and everything. But man, like all the crazy like primary colored jackets and crazy shirts and Cosby sweaters of the 80s and 90s. It's like, yeah, man, it's like I watched Judd Hirsch's Judd Hirsch, Dear John.
Dear John,
and I love Taxi. Taxi is great to me and still feels timeless. But man, Dear John, 90s. How you doing? There's 90s for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I grew up with sitcoms, and I watched every sitcom and knew every single, I just have the TV on constantly. And then when I went to college, I didn't have a TV there. I just sort of stopped watching TV. And then when I would, go back home and stuff, I found the sitcom genre just so obnoxious. Like I couldn't take, like the laugh track was so like, oh no, stop, stop. And I guess I was like, hypnotized or something into it. And once I broke the hypnosis, I couldn't go back. And I never really went back. I never really got into a sitcom after, the ones I sort of grew up with.
Tom, honestly, I think they're trying really hard still on network TV with sitcoms, and they are insipid. And thank God, Only Murders in the Building on Hulu and Disney and some of the other, Ted Lasso on Apple. I mean, technically you can kind of see them sitcom-y or shrinking, but they feel different enough. God, they were really smart, NBC, with The Good Place. And the fact that it, would only be like 10 episodes a season. And it's like, no, that's all we can really handle in a season as far as making it. And thank God the network was wise enough to go, that's fine. You've given us a gem. We weren't expecting it. We were expecting another clone shithead sitcom. Like, and I actually, in my sports radio days, I met Kevin James. and he was
Oh,
a
yeah.
really sweet guy. He really was. He's this very down to earth, good guy. Him and Tim Allen and all these iterations post their primes of King of Queens or Home Improvement. I mean, that Tim Allen show now with Kat Dennings, shit. And then Kevin James, every time he tries to do a new show, shit.
Well,
So,
I mean, King of Queens still feels like a new show to me. Like I'm just that out
that's
of
fair.
the loop for sitcoms that it's like,
Sure.
oh, is that show still
20
on?
years.
Oh, no.
It was
Okay.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because literally last night I noticed they did a Raymond special because it's been 20 years. And it was a clip show, but everybody was there. And it was cute. But it's like, yeah, man. No, that's, again, when they try now, I think it's uphill. And I really think, I think a lot of us are just kind of done with the format.
If we did the math, that reunion show there might be more time between that reunion show and its first run than between like the Laverne and Shirley reunion special or something. Like that kind of math. I hate to do that kind of math. Is really depressing.
I never saw that one. That's hilarious. You know what I did like, and it's don't get me wrong, everybody, it's shit, but it was from the 90s when they did the Odd Couple movie, and poor Jack Klugman was still kind of recovering from his
his throat
surgery.
Yeah,
it was like one of his vocal cords. Like literally, they removed one of his vocal cords. And man, I was so pleased that he even came back and did like a later Outer Limits, I believe, of the 90s Outer Limits and stuff. Because man, that guy does not get the credit for being the great dramatic actor. Even Quincy doesn't get its due for being a really relevant 70s, kind of show and everything. But that 90s movie, it was still them. And their chemistry, Randall and Klugman, and it again mostly shit, but they're just moments that I'm like, kind of like you with Galactica 1980, where you're like, you gotta sit through the shit. I want to see the 2-parter where the Cylons all make it back, and William Daniels is a Cylon.
Yeah. It's like I had avoided that Galactica 1980 for years because I just heard how horrible it was, and finally seeing it, it's like, okay, I get what people are saying, but it's not that. There's something here, there's something there, I'm getting something out of it. I mean, maybe it's just that they start off strong and then they become like kind of a slog for a while, and then they get like interesting as the episode's starting to wrap up.
Well, again, like you pointed out, it became the Space Kids, and we got to protect the Space Kids from being revealed, and it just, I did't care. I'm like, no, man, where's the goddamn Cylons? Let's go. Where's the space battles?
Yeah, and they had enough John Dykstra footage left over that they could sort of stitch a little bit of that kind of stuff together.
Did you ever see Reb Brown's horrible sci-fi movie where they're using a lot of John Dykstra Galactica stuff?
No,
I can't remember the name of it.
You're giving me homework now because I'm going to have to go check that out. I mean, I was just watching the Reb Brown Captain Americas because I had such a great time with the Albert Pune. I thought, well, maybe those Reb Brown ones are good too. Maybe they get a bad rep. I watched them. They're, there's nostalgia there. There's just, very little action.
Have you had the chance to meet him at all at any of the cons?
No, he does the circuit. Yeah, he does the circuit. No, I haven't.
I went to him, and truly, it's a shame because he was built just naturally, like he looks like Steve Rogers post Super Soldier Formula. And I told him that, and he was so sweet. He was at Terrificon, a show that I frequent every year, and I'm like, man, they really did you dirty because you could have been a great Captain America, and it would have made a great series. And he came around his table and he hugged me.
That's nice. Yeah, he looked the part. I mean, all that stuff, there's something there. There's definitely, and the motorcycle stunts were really fun in the first one. And then the second one, the costume is, just about perfect.
Yep.
There just wasn't enough action. There's like the one action scene that gets, that's become like memes because like he'll throw his shield at somebody and then their reaction will be so over the top. But that was like the only action scene in that second movie.
It's like Nicholas Hammond's Spider-Man show that like the promise was there, but unfortunately they just didn't deliver. And again, that's not Reb's fault. And much like Matt Salinger, there's an earnestness to his Steve Rogers that I'm like, again, it's a shame that a better show wasn't built around him and everything. I mean, what are you going to do? You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I know that movie I'm talking about, the sci-fi movie. I can't remember the title of it, but it is an episode of Mystery Science Theater. And if you are going to
Okay.
watch it, I would recommend watching it that way.
The Mystery Science Theater version. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Those, I mean, those Galactica special effects are so great and so much fun, but they just like they're like I know Dykstra left after like a couple episodes, and they just kept recycling the same ones and maybe shooting a couple more. But if they just had a little more of a range, you could have like all the puzzle pieces to just make, you know, almost like an endless number of those things.
I don't know if you ever saw when the Sci-Fi Channel did an incredible behind-the-scenes hour of Galactica, and the problem was ABC just rushed it to series.
Yeah.
So they were just
because they had movies.
behind.
They were rolling out movies, and so those first two movies are phenomenal. They are, you know, really good.
No, and then again, like, and that's why they really just, like you said, I mean, after Dykstra left, they kind of were screwed, and they just had to rely on a lot of using the same footage over and over again. And you know, that's when we get the shitty Ray Bolger, Bobby Van. You know, it's a shame because that has a great idea as far as the main story of that. I think Randolph Mantooth was one of the Earth Sleeper, you know, things that they find. But then, hi, how are you? It's like, ooh, go away. No.
Well, all of these shows, like Battlestar Galactica and even Star Trek, they say, like, why did they cancel this show? This show's so great. But then if you watch, like, you know, you can see the episodes where it's like they made the decision to cancel because it's like, yeah, this show isn't what it was. I guess we got to just, you know, pull the plug. You know, Batman, the Adam West Batman should still be running today. Like, it should have never ended. But you watch those last bunch of episodes, and it's like, I guess, you know, they kind of, you know, had to do it.
The Wind Up Mice, the Pied Piper episode and everything, which literally is the last two episodes in it, or one episode. It was a half-hour Batgirl. No, and also the budget got smaller and smaller to the point where the layers were just like black, you know, sets that maybe had a couple backdrops of, like, you know, silkscreen curtains, and that's about it and everything. It's like, it's a shame. And then, you know, maybe we would have gotten that fourth season if NBC, if they hadn't struck the sets and struck the Batcave and destroyed it. Yeah, I would have loved to have seen what it might have evolved into. And again, thinking about some of these, you know, Japanese series like the Super Sentai, like the Go Ranger and stuff, and how those ran for decades and stuff, and what those became, and you know, again, that just doesn't happen. No, unfortunately. Well, dude, honestly, pleasure getting to know you on this conversation. Stay in touch. Is there anything in the works that you want to promote? You know what? No, there's nothing that's like ready to, you know, that's been announced, you know, but you know, I'm busy, I'm doing stuff, but yeah, nothing to announce. I had a very busy, you know, past couple of years. I mean, all those, I'm trying to think if we missed anything, but all those books we talked, just from, Jack Kirby to Stan Lee to, you know, Godzilla, Space Opera Xanadex, all that. Like it's been sort of nonstop. And so, you know, about a month ago, I finally had a break in my schedule, and I took some time off, and I was like, you know, just to kind of, because it was just go for so long, and ride my bike. I'm still like riding my bike around a lot, as you know, the winter kind of like holds off a little. You know, it's still kind of nice, but now I'm sort of getting back into the grind. And well, it again, is nice. Go, busy is good. And as ChemDog just said, hey, everyone, again, Twilight Zone just out last week from IDW. You definitely want to check that out. Grab these trades, though. Honestly, the Godzilla's Monster Piece Theater, very funny, but really, especially if you read Great Gatsby back in high school, you will certainly appreciate that Tom keeps the flavor of it, and also this wonderful space opera Xanadex. Really, just really fun stuff, and in your indie style, but giant scoped ideas. And you even a 22-page story like the Twilight Zone, the scope is incredible. But Godzilla and Xanadex, those are epic stories by a guy knows what he's doing. So Tom, thank you so much for coming on, and I hope you had fun, and I hope you'll come back. I did, John. This was a great conversation, and
if I read any more of those Galactica novels, we'll have something more to talk about.
Let me know, man. Exactly. Yeah. All right. Everybody, thanks a lot. Tomorrow, late night show, because he's doing a signing, but Gabe Hardman is really itching to talk about his new Batman, Aquaman, and I forget who else is in the comic. I got to read it. But it's out tomorrow, Wednesday, and Gabe wants to talk about it. So right there before Thanksgiving, we got one more New Word Balloon live before the holiday weekend. So hopefully you'll join us tomorrow night. Until next time, everybody stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.